Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm going to talk about something serious today. It's one of the most serious things that I've talked about on this, and I think it's going to chap some butts and hurt some feelings, and rightfully so, because there's some butts out there that need to be chapped, and some feelings that need to be hurt because of the people who are hiding in falsehoods having to do with life, and it will apply to preparedness. You will see about this. I think I'm going to call this one, well, let me back up for just a second. I just put one up on the Patreon channel. What did I call it? I called it Lies, Damn Lies, and the Dangers of Hero Worship. And I don't know what I'm going to call this one on YouTube. As always, I put a lot more stuff on the Patreon channel. If you're not with us over there, the link is down below. There's reasons that I keep stuff off of YouTube. There's just too many nitwits that will come by and create havoc with stupidity. I think I'm going to call this one, I don't know, liars, fakes, heroes, non-heroes, and the celebration of violence, or the danger of celebrating violence. Violence is always celebrated by those who have never been involved in it. Last night, I stumbled upon a new YouTube channel, and I watched a couple of their videos, and I watched a bunch of their shorts. And I am so glad that I stumbled across this channel. And the name of the channel is Anti-Hero Podcast on YouTube. And the thing that drew me to it was that I forget how it came up on my feed. I'll put the link down below in the show notes in the information section, right? You know, where I put down the links to my books and Patreon channel and everything like that. Yeah, and I have not been familiar with I think the guy who runs it. He's a former Delta guy. If I'm not, Brent Tucker, I think is his name. He's got another guy on there that well, it doesn't matter. I believe he's from the law enforcement side. It doesn't matter. And he was talking about two situations that I have always felt were phony. Don't worry, I'm going to bring this back to how this applies to our society today and preparedness. He was talking about Marcus Luttrell, the story of Marcus Luttrell and lone survivor. And what was the other guy's name? Rob O'Neill, the guy who they say killed Osama bin Laden. Okay. And if you've been with me for a while, I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the YouTube side, but I've talked about it on the the Patreon side. I never believed either of those stories because I watched these guys. Luttrell, kind of at first, I'm not going to get into this deeply here. I got into it more deeply on the Patreon side if you care. Luttrell, when I saw the movie, and I said, yeah, something about that. Now, let me make this clear. I was not military. I was law enforcement. But there's something about that movie. I said, no, I'm just not, but movies, they can, movie's a movie. You never know what they're leaving out and what they're putting in. I remember one scene that was the most ridiculous in that movie is when somebody, whoever the star was in that, was writing on a whiteboard things, getting the team ready to go out and things to be concerned about, and he puts rattlesnake. First off, there's no rattlesnakes in Afghanistan, and that I know of. And secondly, come on, you're out. I don't know anybody that would write that in. I don't know. Maybe they do it in the military. We didn't do it in law enforcement. We were going out on things. Nobody figured, we go out in the woods, in the swamps, whatever. Nobody wrote down, somebody saw a rattlesnake over here. You figured they were around, right? Okay. But anyway, I thought the movie was, I'll be honest, I didn't like the movie. Let me put it that way. I won't say it was silly. There was a lot of things that bothered me. I read the book and I said, not getting it, not getting it. And then when I saw Luttrell on some interviews and things, there was a lot of head shaking. I says, I'm not going with this. I don't believe this guy. And then when the deal came out with Rob O'Neill, it didn't take me any time. I tell you, I think I was about 2 minutes into watching him for the first time, and I said, nah, this ain't right. This is not right. I watched him on a number of things, and of course the whole world was going, oh man, Marcus Luttrell, lone survivor, Rob O'Neill killed Osama bin Laden. Well, I'm an old police investigator. It wasn't making any sense to me. And so I thought, now I don't know if let me put it this way. I don't know if those guys were total phonies, but they did one phony thing, and that casts a shadow over everything with me for them. I know I'm a hard ass. I know that some people will say, well, you got to forgive a guy for one thing. Yeah, I forgive a guy for making a mistake. I don't forgive a guy for making millions of dollars for years and then living the rest of his life on a lie. Okay, there you go. That's me. Anyway, I watched a couple of things on this. I highly suggest that you go and you subscribe to this channel and watch a bunch of this stuff. What did I say it was? Anti-Hero Podcast. Okay. Now, why am I talking about this? What are we getting in there? There is an overemphasis, an unhealthy emphasis among Americans, particularly American males, many of whom I won't call men, with violence. And like I say, most people who are so consumed with violence have never been involved in violence. Now, there's something endemic in most men that when we're young, we want to get out there, we want to test ourselves against, and violent encounters and dealing with violence and dealing with danger is a basic part of going through that process of becoming a man. Some people go into the military, some people go into law enforcement, other people go into other things. But the idea, if you're as old as I am, you remember that back in the days, people would be appreciated for what they did, right? But they weren't held up as heroes. They weren't put on a pedestal. For the rest of their lives, anything they say was not questioned. And then something happened with our country. We went through some very easy years, and then we went through the dark years after Vietnam, and then something happened, and it was 9/11. And all of a sudden, the communal American spirit came together as if everybody was a warrior. And people talking about warriors this, warriors that. I wrote an article for Grandmaster Magazine, I think it was about 1999, on what is a warrior. Maybe I'll dig it out sometime and read it for you. I don't know, but it is much different than what most people think is a warrior. We have grown men now playing these ridiculous video games about going to war. Many years ago, I went down with the son of a friend of mine. The son has now become a friend of mine, to go see one of these was it still WWF or was it WWE at the time? I don't know, the wrestling, the fake stuff. And Ken Shamrock had given us some free tickets to it. He had just gone over, WWE or F, whatever, had just brought him over. He had been with Pancrase in Japan, and he was a part of an organization that I was a part of. And so they had just brought him in, billed him as the most dangerous man alive, right? So we go down to Kemper Arena in Kansas City, and we watch this, and I was just amazed. Now, this was entertainment. I'm not taking away from the athleticism of these guys. I mean, they're amazing. I wouldn't want to do the things they do, to jump off a top rope and do a double flip onto somebody. No, I'm not going to do that. I don't want somebody breaking a chair over my back for fun. So, did you ever see that movie, The Wrestler, with Mickey Rourke? Ooh, good. Anyway, but I was never a fan of that stuff. I don't celebrate violence, and particularly I don't celebrate fake violence, because fake violence is simply violence for the sake of violence, as opposed to real violence. Sometimes it's necessary. It's as simple as that. Violence doesn't solve everything, but it solves some things. When violence is brought against you, usually only violence is going to solve the problem. Okay. So we went down there. What amazed me, I sat there, and the place was packed. I don't know what Kemper held. It's not called Kemper anymore, but anyway, it's down in the west bottoms of Kansas City. And I think it held like 12, 15,000 people. The place was packed. And what amazed me was all the grown men that were so into it. I mean, they were just going nuts like little kids, hooting and hollering and everything. And I'm thinking, don't these guys know that it's fake? And I had to say, well, they know it's fake. Then why are they celebrating it? I don't get it. I mean, I'd lived a life of real violence. Real violence is nothing to be celebrated. It's not attractive. It can be addictive, and I warn people about that. And I have to say that at a time in my life, I was just talking about this with a friend of mine not long ago. At a time in our life, he went through the same thing. I was addicted to violence. I was addicted to danger. Those things can be addictive. It doesn't mean that they're good, and it doesn't mean that they should be celebrated. So anyway, they were just hooting, all these so-called grown men, just getting all excited. And some of them had their sons with them, their little 8-year-old, 10-year-old sons, and getting them all involved in this violence. And you look at that crowd, and I'll guarantee you, most of those guys have never been in a fight. You can tell, you can tell. It's kind of like all the guys cheering on the football teams, that never played. And there's nothing wrong with never playing, but there is something wrong with becoming such a hero worshiper that you will spend thousands of dollars to wear a jersey with another man's name on it. Okay? You think so little of yourself that you will spend hundreds of dollars for a single jersey to have somebody else's name on it? Some millionaire that plays with a ball that couldn't care less about you? I don't get it. This is just... Well, anyway, this happened at an event where a wrestler, was his name Hart? Seems like it might have been. I don't know. I could have gone back and checked. I didn't. Doesn't matter. Well, it matters that a human being died. He fell out of the rafters. He was supposed to be making some kind of entry on a wire, and the rigging wasn't rigged right or something. He fell into the ring. I saw it. I knew immediately he was dead. And I mean, when you see a person die, it's not cool like so many people think. And I had that feeling in my guts. That's just, you see a person die for no reason, for entertainment reason. And I understood everything because I'd seen people die for bad reasons. And I saw what happened. And, of course, everybody else, at first, people were clapping. Yay, what a cool entrance, right? And then nothing was happening. I could tell by the way his body was laying. It wasn't laying flat. I could tell he was dead. Or if he wasn't dead, he was going to be dead in a minute. He was paralyzed. He was going to be dead from not being able to breathe. Well, They didn't do anything. It took them a few minutes to bring help into it. And then they were kind of looking around and seeing the questions that went across that crowd. All of a sudden, these thousands of people who had been celebrating, kill him, kill him, kill him, saw something happen there for real, and they were like, what? And then they finally brought the crew in, and they checked him, and it took a while for them to take him out of the ring. And then they continued to fight. And at first, a lot of people go, wow, man, wow. And then they just went on and celebrated the rest of the violence throughout the rest of the show. Why do I bring this up? Because I see this hero worship of people that you don't even know, doing things, play acting. I see hero worship of football players, grown men playing with the ball. I see hero worship of actors who are acting like they're somebody they're not. I see the hero worship that is given to for the people who play these stupid games, grown men playing as if they're going to war, as if they're warriors, holding people who they don't know up as heroes, like Rob O'Neill, like Marcus Luttrell, like others. And that's why I said, go to this, what's it called? Anti-Hero Podcast. These guys are carrying stories about things that you've probably never heard and will change your world. It'll change your world because it'll change the way you look at things. You will understand. Those of us who have been in situations to where we see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, the public doesn't see reality in most things. They see what the powers that be want to show you. I remember the first time that I was involved in something that was going to make the news. And I was all excited. I was 21 years old, brand new on the streets. And somebody says, yeah, this, and the news crews were all over it. And yeah, it's going to be on 10 o'clock news or whatever. And man, I guess I was working days because I was new. And I didn't spend much time working days. No real cop wants to work days. You want to be out in the action in the night, midnights. So, man, I went home and I couldn't wait, to see what was on the news. That was something that I was a part of. I didn't know whether I was going to be on it or not. Didn't matter. It was going to be the thing I knew about it, right? It was going to be cool. So I got there. The news story came on, and I didn't understand what they were talking about. And to make a long story short, the news coverage didn't come close to what had really happened. Not even close. And that's what made me realize that the news has an agenda, and they have a time slot, they have editors, and they need to put it together, and they need to make the anchor look good and the author look good and all this kind of stuff, and the truth be damned. And yet that's what most people go on. Well, what I see, the problem that I see in so much of the preparedness community is I hear a lot of this tough talk out there. A lot of this tough talk. On the t-shirts. all the tough sounding t-shirts. Cold dead hands. I'll take it out, fight it on my front porch. I see people. I see channels. People showing their guns when they don't have to. I'll say right now, this is going to piss some people off. I couldn't care less. I've carried a gun for 50 years. I carried professionally for many, many years. I never took my gun out to show somebody. I never took my gun out if it wasn't necessary to take it out. If you've watched my videos, you don't see me pulling my gun out or showing a gun unless I'm doing a gun review. Okay, I've done a couple about choosing a handgun for beginners, in which case I will put a bunch of handguns out there and show people. For the most part, I keep that on Patreon. Okay, I did one recently on shotguns. I didn't hold a shotgun. You know what a shotgun is. I don't have to hold up a shotgun to look tough. I see channels to where people are trying to talk pretty tough. Tough talk. I've never known. I've known a lot of tough guys. I never knew any that talked tough or tried to. And yet, this is the way they package it. And the problem is, I don't care what somebody else does. The danger is the people who believe it, who think that's cool, who think that's right. And you're being led down a primrose path. That's why the big noise, the tough talkers, that's why they sell. Because people have such a limited understanding of reality. They can't understand the difference between reality and just somebody who's presenting something very well. And the danger is they will believe it. And they may pay a price for it. they may pay a price. For those of you who are pounding on your keyboards with your little chapped asses, all incensed and all offended at what I've said because I just maybe said something about your hero. Okay. If you're offensive, I'm just going to take your comment off because I don't allow idiots on this channel. Okay? This channel is about trying to help good people who really want to learn and help them prepare better, live better lives, survive bad situations. That comes down to making good choices. It comes down to a maturity, an understanding, first off, of the value of human life. And people who are running around, I'll take him out, take him out, take him out. They don't value human life. I'm not saying there's not a time that those things don't have to happen. But that's not what you should be thinking of primarily. You should prepare yourself to be able to defend yourself. Not walking around trying to play army, act like you're something you're not and never have been. Because while those who know that it's silly, many people out there who don't know will think it's real. Might build a big channel, might get a lot of clicks, might get a lot of fanboys. But it's not only not helping people, it could be really endangering people. So, back to what am I going to call this? What? Liars, fakes. I forget. I'll think of it when I do this. The danger of hero worship and the fallacy of the celebration of violence. I'll close with this thought. Violence, though necessary sometimes, is nothing to be celebrated. Life is to be celebrated. A good life. A life that builds, not destroys. A life that nurtures. A life that helps others. Not trying to build oneself up and act like you the biggest, baddest. Think about what you consume. Think about what you watch. Think about who you look up to. Think about the dangers of hero worship. Think about the dangers of falling prey to misinformation that's trying to manipulate you in a certain direction. Think about your God-given rights and your God-given blessings and the responsibility that lays on you to provide for, to protect, to love, and to lead those who depend on you. That's your primary obligation. Develop those things that will enable you to do that. And stop worshiping people I've made my point, who try to convince you what warriors they are. You be a warrior to the extent that you need to be, but be the man or the woman you're supposed to be. Okay? All right, I'm going to put do go watch that. Subscribe to these guys. I'm so glad. I was so glad to see this out there. Because I've had people come after me so much when I question Luttrell and O'Neill. And if you want to hear the truth, go to these guys. Like I said, I'll put the link to it or up in the show notes. Go there. If you'd like to, I haven't even told you about my books today. Let me tell you about my books before I let you go, in case you're interested. You want to see how to really prepare? Not to get out there and try to act all tough and say how many people you'd blow away. Here, the Stonemont series. It's a story about a prepared family who, as a result of their preparedness in a positive way, was able to not just survive, but to continue to live well after the total collapse of everything, and as a result of their preparedness, was able to help other people and then rebuild communities worth living in. These things are packed with lessons. The reversion, the revival, the renewal, and appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, hostages to fortune. I'm working on the 7th one right now. I did put the cover over on the Patreon channel for people who are with us on Patreon. Love to have you on Patreon. That link is down below. There's a lot more stuff over there. You can get these through Amazon if you'd like, in paperback, Kindle, or on Audible, or you can get them directly from me through our website, stonemont.us, and I get to sign them for you, and I love to do that because I like helping people. And I hope that you will think about what I said. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Subscribe to those other guys' site, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.